By the time we got kicked out of the restaurant, my aunt was crying, my cousin was pretending to faint, my brother had stolen 3 bread rolls for no reason, and my grandma was telling the waitress that this whole disaster had been predictable since Tuesday. And the worst part? It was supposed to be a nice family dinner. My mom had planned it for a whole week. She said we all needed one peaceful evening together because lately everyone in the house had been acting a little tense, which was the calmest possible way to describe 11 people living like a reality show with plumbing issues. So she booked a table at this restaurant downtown that was trying way too hard to look fancy. You know the type. Tiny candles, fake flowers, expensive water, and waiters who look offended when you ask for ketchup. The second my mom announced the dinner, I already knew it was going to go bad. Because in my family, the moment somebody says, "Let's all just have one nice evening," that is exactly when everything falls apart. We were supposed to leave at 6. At 5:30, Aunt Melissa still wasn't ready. At 5:40, Sophie was screaming because Alicia had apparently copied her vibe, which just meant they both wore black. At 5:50, Noah had disappeared. And at 5:55, Emma came into my room, looked me dead in the face, and said, "Someone is going to cry in public tonight." Then she walked away. So obviously that was in my head the whole time. We finally got in the cars 20 minutes late. My mom was already stressed. Ryan was driving like he had somewhere else to be. Melissa kept saying the restaurant better be worth it. Sophie was taking selfies in the back seat. Alicia was acting like she was too good to attend a dinner with us. Noah finally showed up carrying a hoodie, a phone charger, and absolutely no explanation for where he'd been. Grandma got in last and said, "You're all dressed like people with secrets." Nobody even reacted. At this point, that's just how she talks. When we got there, the hostess looked at us the way teachers look at a loud class on the first day of school, like she already knew she was going to regret this. We got seated at this long table near the window, which would have been cute if half the family hadn't already started arguing over who got to sit where. Sophie wanted the seat with the best lighting. Alicia said she needed to be on the aisle because she hated feeling trapped. Melissa said she wasn't sitting under the air vent because it made her look shiny. Ryan said he didn't care, then complained anyway. Noah sat wherever he wanted and took 2 bread baskets before anyone could stop him. My mom kept forcing this smile like if she held it long enough, maybe the night would still become normal. For about 7 minutes, everything was okay. Drinks came, menus opened, nobody yelled, and then the problem started. Apparently, Sophie had invited someone, without telling anyone. A boy. He wasn't even inside yet. She just casually said, "Oh, by the way, if a guy named Jason comes in, he's with us." The whole table froze. My mom slowly put her menu down and said, "You invited someone to a family dinner?" Sophie shrugged and said, "It's not that deep." Melissa laughed so loudly people turned around. Alicia looked delighted. Noah whispered, "No way," like he'd just been handed front row tickets to a concert. And Grandma, without even looking up, said, "There it is." My mom asked Sophie why she would do that. Sophie said because Jason was already nearby and she didn't want to cancel. My mom said this was family time. Sophie said Jason was basically family. Ryan nearly choked on his water. Melissa started asking if Sophie had completely lost her mind. Sophie said Melissa needed to relax. And then, somehow, Jason actually walked in. I am not exaggerating when I say the entire table turned to look at him. He stood there smiling like he had no idea he had just entered the worst possible situation. He brought flowers too, which honestly made it worse because now my mom had to be polite. She smiled in that painful, tight way and told him he could sit. Melissa muttered, "Unbelievable." Sophie looked proud of herself. Alicia was trying not to laugh. Noah was fully enjoying himself, and Emma leaned over to me and whispered, "This is where the crying starts." Jason sat down next to Sophie and tried really hard to act normal. He introduced himself to everybody, shook Ryan's hand, nodded respectfully at my mom, and even said hello to Grandma. Grandma stared at him for 3 full seconds and said, "You seem nervous." He said, "A little," and Grandma nodded like that confirmed something for her. Then we ordered. At first, Jason was actually doing well. He was polite, funny, and somehow not terrified enough by our family to run away immediately. He asked what everybody did, laughed at Noah's dumb jokes, and complimented my mom for organizing dinner. For one weird second, it almost felt like the night might survive. Then Melissa asked the question. She leaned forward, smiled in the fakest way possible, and said, "So, Jason, what exactly are your intentions with Sophie?" I wanted to disappear. My mom closed her eyes. Sophie went bright red and said, "Oh my God." Jason laughed awkwardly and said, I just really like spending time with her." Melissa said that wasn't an answer. Alicia took a sip of her drink like she was watching live entertainment. Ryan muttered, "Here we go." And Noah, the actual rat that he is, opened his phone notes app. I know that look. He was recording lines for later. Jason tried again and said he thought Sophie was smart and funny and pretty. That should have been enough. It was not enough. Melissa asked if he had a job. He said he was still in school. Melissa asked if he planned to stay in school. He said yes. Melissa asked if he had ever been arrested. Sophie nearly screamed. My mom told Melissa to stop. Melissa said she was just trying to protect Sophie. Sophie said nobody asked her to do that. And right there, that should have been the end of it. But then Emma dropped her fork, looked Jason directly, and said, "Do you know Sophie has 2 fake accounts?" I felt my soul leave my body. Sophie snapped around so fast her chair almost tipped. She said, "Emma!" Jason blinked and said, "What?" Emma shrugged and reached for another bread roll. She has one for stalking people and one for being mean. The silence after that was so bad I could hear someone at another table laughing. Sophie looked like she wanted to throw herself through the window. My mom said very quietly, "Emma, that is not appropriate." Emma nodded like she understood, then added, "She also cried over a sandwich last week." Noah had to put his head down on the table because he was laughing too hard. Jason tried to smile, but you could tell his brain was working overtime. Sophie kept saying Emma was lying. Emma said she wasn't. Grandma took a sip of water and said, "The child usually isn't wrong, she's just early." That did not help. Then the food came, which would have been a great distraction if Melissa hadn't immediately started complaining that her chicken looked dry. Ryan said they could send it back. Melissa said she shouldn't have to. Sophie was still trying to recover her dignity. Jason looked like he was questioning his life choices. And then Noah, who truly loves evil, said, "So, Jason, if you and Sophie ever get married, do you think you could handle this family?" Sophie kicked him under the table. He did not care. Jason laughed in that nervous way people do when they know there is only one wrong answer and somehow every answer feels wrong. He said, I guess I'd have to." Melissa said, "Interesting, so you think this is manageable?" Jason, poor clueless Jason, looked around and said, It doesn't seem that bad." That was it. That was the exact moment the whole table exploded. Alicia started laughing so hard she almost cried. Ryan actually clapped once. Noah said, "That's crazy." Melissa looked personally insulted. Sophie buried her face in her hands. And Grandma said, "He has no idea." Jason immediately realized he had said the wrong thing, but it was too late. Melissa started listing everything that had happened in the family in the last month alone, like she was presenting evidence in court. The broken sink, the missing dress, the freezer money, the screaming matches, the neighbor calling the police. She kept going and going while Jason just sat there like a hostage in a button-up shirt. My mom kept trying to stop her, but the damage was done. Then Sophie stood up and said she was going to the bathroom. Jason, trying to be nice, stood up too. Melissa said, "Good luck," and Sophie actually yelled, "I hate this family," which honestly was rude but not inaccurate. She stormed off. Jason followed her. My mom looked like she was about to cry from embarrassment. Noah stole another bread roll. Ryan said maybe everyone should calm down. Melissa said none of this would have happened if Sophie respected boundaries. Alicia said none of this would have happened if Melissa knew when to shut up. Melissa snapped back. Ryan got involved. My mom told everybody to stop. And then, because of course, Sophie came back crying. Actual tears. Jason was behind her feeling panicked. My mom stood up immediately and asked what happened. Sophie pointed at Melissa and said, "He thinks we should maybe just stay friends." Noah whispered, "That was fast." I kicked him under the table. Melissa looked shocked for about half a second before saying, "Well, maybe honesty is a gift." Sophie lost it. She started yelling that Melissa ruins everything, that nobody in this family can ever act normal for one night, and